The night my wife threw me out of our mansion, she placed a suitcase in my hands and told me I was no longer worthy of standing beside her. She had just secured a $100 million business deal, and in her eyes, I had become nothing more than the broke husband who had held her back. What she didn't know was that the contract she had been celebrating all night carried a name she had never bothered to read. My name. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that someone's true worth should never be measured by money, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to Humanity Tales. Because sometimes, the person we underestimate is the very person holding our future in their hands. For 7 years, I had been married to Elena. When we met, she was ambitious but struggling, running a tiny technology company from a rented office with 2 employees and an old laptop. I believed in her before anyone else did. I used my savings to help pay her first major supplier, worked nights handling paperwork, drove her to meetings, and even turned down a better-paying job so I could manage the business accounts while she focused on growth. I never complained. I honestly believe that when one person in a marriage succeeds, both people succeed. But success slowly changed Elena. As her company grew, so did the distance between us. The little office became a luxurious headquarters. 2 employees became hundreds. Her modest apartment became a mansion overlooking the city. And the woman who once held my hand while walking through cheap grocery stores began feeling embarrassed whenever I wore the same simple shirts I had always worn. She started introducing me as her husband less often. Sometimes, at business events, she would simply say I was helping with the company. I pretended not to notice. Then came the announcement that changed everything. A massive international investment group had chosen Elena's company for a $100 million expansion deal. The contract would transform her business overnight. She spent weeks preparing for the signing ceremony, surrounded by lawyers, executives, photographers, and people who suddenly wanted to be close to her. I was proud of her. But on the evening of the contract signing, something inside her finally broke. She came home carrying a champagne bottle and wearing an expensive designer dress. Her face was glowing with excitement. She placed the signed documents on the dining table and announced that her company had just entered the biggest deal of its history. I hugged her. She pushed me away. She told me she was tired of pretending that I belonged in her new life. She said successful people needed successful partners, not men who reminded them of where they had started. I stood there silently, hoping she would realize how cruel her words sounded. Instead, she walked upstairs and returned with a suitcase. She told me to leave. That night, I walked out of the mansion with one suitcase, a wallet containing less than $200, and a heart that felt heavier than everything I had ever owned. I spent the night in a small hotel. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls from Elena's company. I ignored them. I didn't want her money. I didn't want revenge. I simply wanted to understand how the woman I had once loved could forget 7 years so easily. But then one call finally made me answer. It was Elena's chief attorney. His voice was unusually serious. He told me there was a problem with the $100 million contract. I assumed something had gone wrong with the investment. Then he asked me one question that made my entire body freeze. He asked if Elena had actually read the final page. She hadn't. In her excitement, Elena had signed the contract without carefully reviewing the ownership clause. The investment group hadn't purchased part of Elena's company directly. They had invested the $100 million under an agreement that required the company to remain under the control of its original strategic founder. And according to the documents filed years earlier, the original founder wasn't Elena. It was me. 7 years before, when Elena had first dreamed of creating the company, she had no money and no investors. I had paid the registration fees, filed the original business documents, created the first financial structure, and transferred operational control to Elena because I believed her vision mattered more than my name. Legally, the foundation of the company remained connected to me. The $100 million contract had been approved because the investment group had conducted its own background investigation. They knew exactly who I was. Elena didn't. When she finally discovered the truth, she came to find me. I was sitting in a small cafe, wearing the same simple shirt she had once complained about, staring through the window at people rushing through the rain. She arrived without makeup, without assistance, and without the confidence she had carried the night before. For the first time in years, she looked like the woman I had married. She apologized. Not because she wanted the company. Not because she feared losing the money. She admitted that she had allowed success to convince her that people had value only when they could increase her status. She told me that while she was celebrating the $100 million deal, she had forgotten the man who had helped her build everything when there was nothing to celebrate. I listened quietly. The easiest thing would have been to punish her. I could have taken control of the company. I could have destroyed her reputation. I could have walked away with millions and never looked back. But revenge wouldn't give me back the 7 years I had lost. So I made one condition. If she wanted another chance, she had to rebuild our marriage the same way we had built her company, from the ground up. No luxury. No pretending. No treating people differently because of their bank accounts. Elena agreed. She sold the mansion. She moved into a modest apartment. She began visiting the employees whose names she had once forgotten and personally thanking them for their work. And most importantly, she stopped being embarrassed by the man beside her. Months later, the $100 million investment transformed the company into an international success. But something far more valuable happened inside their home. They learned how to speak again. They learned how to listen. And they learned that love isn't about standing beside someone when they're successful. It's about remembering the person who stood beside you when you had nothing. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Humanity Tales. Your support helps these emotional stories reach people who may need a reminder that kindness, loyalty, and second chances still matter. And before you leave, comment "Love is more than money" if you believe true relationships should be built on loyalty, respect, and kindness. Because Elena thought the most important name on that $100 million contract was the name of the company. She was wrong. The name she never read was the name of the man she had thrown away. And sometimes, the person we push out of our lives isn't the person who needs us. They're the person who gave us everything we had.